Not only do I turn looks, I turn bottoms into tops.
I might be a bear, but deep down I'm just a kitten. Hello!
I'm Hunter Harden.
And I'm Papa the Bear, and welcome to the Real Housebears of Salt Lake City.
Podcaster.
I like that. Oh, the jazz hands. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to have to start recording our video so people can see those jazz hands.
Absolutely.
You know, we've had a really fantastic few months. You know, 2020 has been hard on everyone. You know, you lost your dad this year. My mom lost her husband to COVID. The first, 3 quarters of the year were really rough. But, you know, we've had a really great, we're finishing the year off great.
A lot of stuff really hasn't happened this year because of COVID, but a lot has really happened in my life and in your life.
Yeah, and this last month or two, we got engaged and married, got a great honeymoon in Cabo. We got the Salt Lake City Housewives.
New podcast.
A new podcast. And then this week, something really miraculous happened.
God. I know what you're going to say.
After 6 years of being denied a Costco membership.
Listen, okay. You are allowed to have a Costco membership, but whenever we did go to Costco every little bit, we'd end up throwing away all the extras and stuff. And it wouldn't be worth it in my mind to have a Costco membership and go into Costco, getting dragged around all day and walking around. They don't even give you treats anymore because of COVID. They don't give you food, the samples anymore. And plus, they don't serve alcohol in Utah at our Costcos. So it's not worth it.
Well, this week, Hunter's mother sent us a Costco membership for Christmas. So this is my very first Costco membership, and you're going to have to excuse me. I'm so excited, giddy. Today I finally got to go.
He spent 3 hours there today.
And I left too soon. I really am on a high. I walked into Costco and the possibilities were only limited by the size of my refrigerator.
You walked in and you're like, I love it.
I love that.
I love it.
I love it.
Yes. So you guys are going to have to forgive me because I am so excited. I went down every single aisle. I filled up my cart and then emptied my cart so that I didn't spend my whole entire paycheck. But it's really, today was one of the highlights of finally being a Costco member, not just shopping with someone who had a Costco membership.
I wish you could just hear my eyes rolling right now.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say eye rolls because that's a really beautiful way to go ahead and get started talking about this week's beautiful continued serving of the Met Gala Cocktail Luncheon.
Yeah, this episode is actually called Ladies Who Lunch.
Here's to the ladies who lunch.
What?
So that is from a musical called Company. And actually, 20 years ago, I did a one-man show called Songs I'm Not Supposed to Sing, and it was all these songs that were sung by women that I wanted to sing. And that was one of the songs that I got to sing. And so it's a really
How gender-forward of you.
Right. Well, the crazy thing is I named it Songs I'm Not Supposed to Sing, and then literally just a few years later, I saw on the internet that there ended up being a real program called Songs I'm Not Supposed to Sing of people who are singing the wrong gender songs. They're not... They didn't know about my show. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying 2 people had the same idea.
Bear.
Yeah?
How do you know so much about music?
Well, I was a middle school choir teacher for 21 years.
Right.
So
I get lectured about music all the time at home. Whenever he hears a sound or any kind of random note, he's like, oh, that's from this, and this person. And he has this background about every single person in music history.
Hey, life is a musical. I firmly believe it.
You know what? You made me believe that. So let's get into this episode. Are you ready?
Listen, this Met Gala has given us so much. Like, I forgot that there was even more of the Met Gala to go because I felt like last week was such an awesome scene and there was so much build up to it that I forgot that we have even more Met Gala.
I mean, Mary and Jen Shaw haven't even spoken to each other yet, basically. So we open up with Meredith and Jen Shaw laughing about the situation. They're like, oh, I was crazy. I called you bleep, 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 bleep. I know, honey. It was fantastic. So they're just kind of going back and forth and being like, oh, that was kind of funny. Let's blow it all off. We're friends again.
Yeah, Meredith was really appreciative of the apology she got. Actually, she says appreciate 4 times. She's like...
Meredith said, not Mary.
Did I say Mary?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Meredith said I appreciate. She kept saying appreciate over and over again. I was like, she's hopeful though.
I appreciate it. Yeah, she's hopeful that this will be kind of like over now.
Maybe she's hopeful that Jen Shaw won't speak so hatefully even though she cares so much.
Listen, she's got a hard exterior, yo.
She does.
She'll F you up sideways, backwards, left, right, to Saturn and back.
But when she said that, when she's like, I act so big because I care so much, that I was like, that brings me back to last week when I said, or maybe 2 weeks ago, however long it was, when I was like, Jen Shaw would not have attacked Meredith if she didn't think that Meredith would forgive her.
Yeah. You know what? Jen Shaw is giving us some serious housewife realness. She is embodying what the housewife franchise is.
She is. She really, really is.
She's getting crazy. She's got the looks. She's got the attitude. She's got the business. She's got the career. She's got the family. She's got the swag.
Yeah, and she
fights.
Yeah, well, she says what everyone else is thinking, which is what she says there at the luncheon. She's like, I say what y'all are thinking. Mary's like, you do not say the things that are on my mind.
Okay, to be honest, I have no idea what Mary and Jen were saying to each other that whole time because they were snapping back at each other so fast and over each other. But I was just watching Professor Snape's crazy uncle doing magic over the drinks in the background. That is all I could see. That's honestly...
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Professor Snape from Hogwarts.
Yes, I don't remember who in the show you're talking about.
Walter.
Walter. Oh, so last week he was Professor from Back to the Future, and now he's Professor Snape.
Well, okay, look in the background of him. He is doing some serious magic over these drinks that he's about to give these ladies.
My God.
And all I could think was he was doing magic and potions and stuff over it. Here, you gotta look at it. You gotta look.
So hysterical. That is so funny.
But yeah, anyways, then I saw Jen Shaw's nails because she looked like she was gonna claw Mary's eyes out.
Yeah, right. She's got those spiky nails on, I think.
I love it that they're just yelling at each other not to do a movement or an action back at each other. It's so childish and funny.
Well, and Mary has a very expressive face, very expressive eyes, as Jen Shaw calls out. But when Mary said, I don't think anyone at the table would say what you say, sweetheart, and then winked at her, I was like, yikes. That's very aggressively passive-aggressive.
It's so funny that she says words can be deadly. But then she starts blowing off these words saying, and don't get ghetto and hoodlum.
Yeah, and Jen Shaw's like, don't wave your finger and don't open those eyeballs like that.
I know. I just love it how they're just yelling at each other to not do an action towards each other. Well, don't point your finger at me. Well, don't give me those eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of go back and forth and acting really, they're both acting kind of childish, but then when Mary says, I don't want to talk to you ever. Even Jen Shaw giggled at that. Yeah, seriously. And it's so funny when she's like, Jen Shaw's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm getting out of here. I'm out of here. And Mary's like, no, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want you here. And Heather just says, Mary, you do want to talk to her. Mary, you want her to stay. And it just sounded like she was doing the Jedi mind trick on her the whole time. She was just like, no, Mary, you want her to stay. But Mary pulls on a power move. She's like, bye. Bye. You can go now. Bye. And she tried that in the very first episode with with Jen Shaw's friend who was supposedly heard Mary say that she sounded like hospital. So Mary tries to intimidate, but again, I don't think really anyone respects her or fears her enough to be intimidated by her.
No. And Mary even says at one point, she says, "Oh, what, are you going to whoop my butt?" She just thinks that it's just going to turn into violence because of who Jen Shaw is, color of her skin, because I feel like Mary is almost like self-hating.
Yeah, well, you can tell she feels under attack because she has, the rooster's comb on top of their head, the red thing on top of the rooster.
Yeah.
Mary's wig has its own rooster's comb. Y'all know I'm obsessed with Mary's wig, but she's got these flyaway wispies on top of her head that, like, you can tell that she's a rooster. That feels like it's under
gosh.
attack.
And then, and I love it. And here comes Lisa, and she just says, "I feel terrible. I don't like this feeling right now." I love how straight up she is about her feelings at that moment. Nobody's like even talking to her or anything. She just makes that comment, and she has her hand. She's clutching her pearls.
She
on her
looks
neck.
like Mom and Dad are fighting.
Yeah. I don't like
Mom,
this.
Dad, stop it. This makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like it. But listen, and Whitney gives us another brand. Like, it's so beautifully shady because, like, she's in on the joke. Whitney is in on the joke. She says, "It started so amazing. I mean, we had a red carpet, beefeater guards, beta fish, Louis Vuitton, 20-year-old wine. I got a journal and a nice pen with my name on it. Everyone was being nice and there was amazing food. I mean, I came for the pasta." She sees this like, I think like we do. Like, she's a little bit on the outside looking in going, "This is crazy. This is wild. And I want to see more of it."
Listen, Whitney is a gem, and she must be protected at all costs. Right? That is all I feel about it. The more I see her, the more I am in love with her.
A kind of an eye-opener for me in this scene was when Mary expresses, though, that she's nervous that because Jen Shaw said that aloud, called her a grandpa effer aloud, which Mary says, she calls me a grandpa MFer. I'm like, no, it's not an MFer. That stands for mother effer.
I know. She said that in the last episode too, and I was like, no, she's not saying. It's G effer.
But it didn't dawn on me, and I guess it was my own stupidity that she was like, okay, now that's what everyone's going to be thinking about me.
And you know what? I feel like that's exactly what she's thinking. Like, that's the way she felt of it, because
100%.
You could tell that she's had to go against so many judgment eyes and people talking about her, which is, when you marry your step grandfather, that's going to happen.
And listen, and so glad that Jen Shaw called her that, because we get another great Heather Gay line of, she's like, "Yes, Mary said Jen smelled like hospital. Jen called Mary a grandpa effer." They're even.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, I would say that's definitely even.
And then we get into a whole type of race situation because Jen was excited to meet Mary because Mary was another person of color. And she thought, we've already found out in previous episodes that Jen had a hard time growing up in Utah being a person of color. And so she was really excited to hopefully bond with someone who maybe had a similar outlook on life.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like Mary has any intentions of being that type of person for Jen, or even, I feel there's so much to go in about this whole Mary and race. And when Jen brings up that Mary said if she sees Black people outside of a convenience store like 7-Eleven, she turns around and goes away.
Yeah, that was intense to me.
And she keeps using these words like ghetto and hoodlum to Jen Shaw. It's very concerning.
Well, I've speaking to a lot of my African American friends and other friends of color, and they actually, Jen Shaw and Sharif talk about it later. There is even racism inside of the African American community where the lightness or darkness of your skin is something that creates prejudice in their own community. And it's clear maybe that Mary is one of those people who has, prejudice within her own race.
Just different skin color just means different
heritage.
Heritage, that's what I'm trying to say, heritage.
Yeah, it's not really, it doesn't have anything to do with where you come from or where you live or anything of the sort. It's really about where your ancestors came from. So,
That sucks.
yeah. And you know, in the white community, I'd say it's more about class system and that we
Oh,
deal
yeah,
with
definitely.
versus, you know, we don't have skin color.
Ew, that's gross.
Yeah, but people do judge, you know, based on where you live,
Class.
how much money you have. So I guess we have it on our side that way too. But it's unfortunate. I wish we could all just get along.
Seriously.
I really like seeing Lisa trying to be a peacemaker here. We're seeing, I think in this episode, we get to really see a softer side of Lisa. We get to see the side of Lisa that Lisa sees in Lisa.
That is the most Lisa thing you could have ever Lisa.
Right. We're really seeing the side of her that she's trying to convince us all is her. And so, I mean, clearly it's a genuine moment for her. So,
But you know what? I get into it later on in this episode, but I give you some reasons why I really fell in love with Lisa. I just took me some time to find something that I loved about each person, but I really loved Lisa this episode.
yeah, I did too. You know, again, I said in the very first episode that I was kind of hungering for a relationship, like my TV relationship with Lisa. And the more I get to know her, the more I like her. Yeah, I mean, we have more than Diet Coke in common for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I love it when Heather drags Jen behind her, dragging her back into the luncheon. And it's like she's dragging a child, and the child's like barely moving her legs behind because she's in trouble. You know, like, I don't want to do this. But, you know, she drags her back. Get her, Mama Heather.
But Jen says, you know, she clearly yells at people when she cares, and she came back because she cares.
Listen, she is a passionate woman.
She is a passionate woman. And, you know, it starts off this, again, nice for a moment, and Mary tries at first to be like, you know, it wasn't my intention to make you feel better, and it only lasts for a second, but then everyone just keeps talking and keeps talking and keeps talking, so Mary gets defensive again, and she's starting to focus on like the words that you're using, the semantics, like it seems hypocritical versus saying you're a hypocritical person. Like she really gets on the defense.
Yeah, it's funny because Jen says, that one part when Jen says, I wouldn't be here if I didn't care. Then the ladies all say, I believe her. I believe her. No, I believe her. And it made me laugh so hard at that point because I was like, what Stepford Wives was that?
I felt like it was like the Grinch and the Who's.
Yes, exactly. I believe.
She came from a snowflake. But the best deflection, the best way to get out of an argument that I have ever seen ever on television is like, you guys, we have to stop. You're upsetting Walter.
Poor Walter. Justice for Walter. Hashtag justice for Walter.
Seriously, it's so funny. And then cut to them, and you know he does look a little bit bothered. I'm not.
Well,
gonna
I mean,
lie.
I know it cuts to Walter, a.k.a. Doc from Back to the Future, or Snape's scary uncle from Hogwarts. He is very displeased with this behavior.
And then Mary does another one of those childish things where I don't want to talk to you ever. And it made Jen Shaw laugh again because it was still just, again, it's just such an elementary school thing to say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Mary doesn't even want to let Whitney talk. She's like, shut up, you're 30. And Whitney's response, yeah, I'm 30. You're old as F and acting like you're 10.
I know. Whitney is the youngest, but she's the smartest and oldest acting person there.
No, she is actually 34.
34, yeah.
Whitney. And she's actually a step...
That's how old I am, Bear.
See? And she's a step-grandmother.
I'm not, no, not me. I am almost going to be like a great uncle.
See?
Isn't that crazy to think of?
That is crazy to think of. I think you're great every day.
Every day what?
I just think that you're great.
Oh, I'm just great. I thought you're like, you're a great everyday person or something like that.
You're a great uncle.
Yes.
And you're just great.
I'm amazing.
You are amazing.
Call me Lisa.
Mary calls Jen a hoodlum on top of calling her a ghetto, and then Jen calls Mary flat out for being racist, and that's when the whole 7-Eleven.
Yeah, Jen spills the tea that Mary would turn around and go to a different 7-Eleven if there were a bunch of black kids out front of it. Or as Mary would call them, ghetto hoodlums, probably. And then Jen just snaps and like reminds her that she is black.
And then the $100,000 pyramid category of things that Mary Cosby fears are convenience stores and
hospitals. Yes, are Mary's triggers. Can't wait to see what she thinks of like a black doctor who also owns a 7-Eleven. She'd probably like run screaming. And that brings us to Mary's house.
I know. And then finally, after the commercial break, it brings us right back to her and her assistant beatboxing.
What?
I like all those little quick little 10-second scenes after a commercial break. We've got Mary and her assistant beatboxing, which is fun. It's fun, And then we have Meredith and Brooks recapping the luncheon.
Well, hold on. You have to give that beatboxing credit to the housekeeper at Mary's house because the only other scene is later on where she has to be paged in the house to bring her Mary her tray.
I wrote that down. I was like, Mary can't even call the housekeeper herself. I
didn't even know. I was blown away that she just had a page in general.
No, she had a Robert Sr. page her for her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my
sorry.
Lord.
But so now back at Meredith's house with Judgy McGrump Brooks judging his mom's life choices. And Meredith seems to be scared to talk to her son almost because she doesn't want to get judged by Brooks. Words can hurt, Brooks. They're like weapons.
I'm feeling really uncomfortable.
I mean, you can't argue with him, though, here. He's like, Meredith says Jen apologized and said that she only reacts that way because she cares. And Brooks is like, she yells at you because she cares. And, that would probably be my same
Well, that's why I yell at you. It's because I care.
But you don't really yell at me.
No, I don't. I don't like yelling. It hurts my throat.
No matter my feelings.
Oh my gosh, there is something in the air today.
It's my Costco trip, I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh.
We find out that, and also another really quick scene is we find out that Henry gets 2 birthdays, which we're going to see coming up. He gets 1 birthday in Park City and 1 at home. So,
well, you know what that means, right?
What does that mean?
If he gets 2 birthdays, I get 2 birthdays.
You get a whole month already.
But I want 2 parties.
Well, maybe we'll see after COVID's over if we can arrange 2 parties. And then finally, we get some Heather Gay time.
Yes, and someone with her daughters.
Yes, I love, again, I'm listening to her podcast, and I just love hearing her outlook on parenthood. So I really like watching these scenes with her and her daughters.
And then all of a sudden you hear, uh-oh, here comes the stereotypical bad boyfriend with the loud car coming to pick up the daughter. That's so 90s.
There's no way he's a bad boy.
No, totally not. It's a totally 90s sitcom kind of bad boy.
Well, for the one thing, for those of you who aren't from Utah, everyone who is kind of from here has a variation of the same name spelled 100 different ways.
Yeah, they'll throw in an X, a Q, maybe double A's in there.
Yeah, like Kaylee.
Double T's.
Yeah, so you can meet 18 different Kayleys and none of them have the same spelling.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you Google Utah names, there's a lot of fun videos of people that made it out there. And living here, you get to meet all these people with the name tags on, helping you out, and they all have such fun names.
And his name is Jaden with a Y, which is not all of that of a outrageous name. I taught a Jaden or 2. Actually, the Jadens I taught were all female. But when I just saw his name, I was like, I wonder if he's Mormon. It's just so typical.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it that when she hears the loud engine coming up in the car and stuff, Heather says, I have mad respect for that. She's such a fun mom.
She is. I love her language, her verbiage.
Yeah, she also says, so apparently you can't bring the same boy to 2 dances in the Mormon community because it could lead to a serious relationship, which could lead to sex. But I thought that was kind of weird because I thought that the Mormons want to get married young and they want to have lots of kids real quick. But I guess that's too young.
I mean, that's what I wrote down. I was like, when are they allowed to pursue a serious relationship? Is there like an age?
I thought it was like 6th grade teaching.
Like again, they don't want them to pursue a serious relationship, but they really do ultimately want them to get married and procreate. So it's hard. I'm like, so when's the cutoff?
Yeah, seriously. I love that Heather's so supportive of her daughters. Yeah. I've seen so many times with like, because she's like, I'm not gonna like stop my daughter from dating or seeing a boy and stuff. Because like in my personal life, with all the girls that I've been friends with over the times, there's 2 of my friends that they had such restricted lives at home that they had to break the rules just to be able to go out and have fun with friends. And she ended up being really bad.
Yeah,
like one of them was like, and went down the wrong path. And so like, I feel it's really important to give your kids room to grow.
Yeah. If you don't let them be a little bit of a good time girl, then they're going to turn into a bad girl.
Woo! Good time girl. It just seems like the Mormon community is just very like,
I think it's really, but I think Heather really just wants her kids to really be able to experience life, with reasonable boundaries, I'm sure, and just really experience love as a feeling versus just marrying a man because he's Mormon.
Yeah, because she kind of talks about how they've stopped kind of going to churches and going to events and stuff, and the Mormon community has thus kind of separated themselves from their family as well. So even the kids aren't really wanting to go to church anymore.
Yeah, they're sinners.
That's not fun. Yeah. I loved her daughter. I think her name was Georgia, but she's got such good lines. I think that she takes after her mom the most.
Unlike any of the other cities, this city really does bring up conversations about religion. And what I really appreciate about the conversation in this show is the difference between doctrine and the difference between like church politics. And, Lisa has brought that up several times. Like, hey, that's not what being a member of the church is about, or at least what the faith is about. But that does tend to happen in churches. And I think that's across all faiths.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting to have this franchise be kind of so revolving around religion. Because you're really learning more about mostly the Mormon community, of course, but a lot of people don't know anything about the Mormon culture unless they went to go see like
the Book of Mormon.
The Book of Mormon at Broadway, but but might not be the best way for you to learn about the Mormon culture that way first.
Maybe not. But anyway, it's a really nice scene with Heather and her girls, and watching them move forward and moving forward together.
It seems like they still like to be Mormons. They are just fine-tuning it to what they believe.
I guess
it should be to be a good person.
I guess we'll see how it all pans out.
I like. Now we have Meredith picking up her husband from the airport.
Now, you know that she hates to drive. So when I saw her pick him up, I was like, oh, this is really sweet. Because remember, she said a few episodes again that she drives like twice a year.
I wrote down, I was like, who's driving?
So I thought it was really sweet that she picked him up. And they seemed really, really happy to see each other. They were holding hands in the car.
Yeah, but though, these new scenes that are coming up with her and her husband are making me very uncomfortable. And I also feel like it's her husband making things uncomfortable too. He kind of makes little jabs at her here and there, which just aren't really needed. And you kind of watch it there. When you watch this scene, he's just like, oh, wow, how come I not sit in the back? You don't want to sit next to me? Kind of like implying, almost kind of picking a fight, in my opinion. And she's just like, no. She's like, just get in the car.
It didn't. I remember. You're right. I didn't catch quite what he was saying there. I was probably writing down a note there, but yeah. Now that does make well. The sweet moment doesn't last long.
He gets right into living situations.
Yeah, he's been working between Chicago and Canton, Ohio, and he wants to live in Ohio and doesn't understand why Meredith might not want to live in Ohio.
Yeah, he's like, let's move to Canton, Ohio. She's like, no, I don't want to move. And he's like, Akron then.
Oh, that's so much better, Seth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen on social media, Meredith is like, you guys don't understand. Like, we have moved 1,000 times because of him.
Yeah.
So, and she's like, it's a trigger. And I'm like, I can understand that. Especially, she's found success in Salt Lake City with her show.
Well, I mean, they are having this conversation of where to live on the show that is about Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Right. And plus, she's not secure about their future. So I don't blame her that I would not be just like, yeah, let's uproot everything, even though we're not, we're technically separated right now.
Yeah, it just gets very awkward. I love it that they're arguing like 2 feet from the driver. The driver is like, this isn't a limo. I can't roll up the separator and this uncomfortableness.
Oh, I didn't realize she wasn't driving.
Yeah, she's not. That's why I was like, who's driving? Because she's never putting her hands up. They're being driven.
I thought
that's
she
why he's like,
was
how come we're not
driving.
sitting in the back?
Oh my
Bear,
gosh.
you're really pretty. You sure are. You're pretty.
Well, I was glad for this scene to end, but I was not glad to see him have that Akron brochure out. Like they finished. She's
Is
like,
that
I
what
don't,
it was?
Yes, she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. And he's like, okay. So instead, he's like looking at this giant like book about Akron or Ohio or Canton or whatever. I was like, put that away. The next scene is pretty cool because it's just a back and forth between Jen Shaw and Mary talking to their husbands.
Yeah, and you know what? When we get to Mary's house,
Oh my gosh.
it opens up and we finally see the room with the pile of clothes that Mary grabs 12 items from every day randomly puts it on. Well, it's not so much a pile that I thought like, a mound in the middle of the room. It's just kind of scattered everywhere. It is
It
on
is a big
hooks.
cluttered room, though. It's a big cluttered room.
It's legit. Our entire condo is that room, and it's filled with clothes. And I'm like, get it, girl. You go grab 12 items.
We fell out. We're like, oh my God, it's the big room.
I told you. I knew it. I knew it.
You know what? After, though, when I heard Robert Sr. say, put a beret on it, I was like, I can't, time just stopped. I was like, no, don't tell her that.
Tell her to take stuff off. Don't put more stuff on.
And this is where Mary can't even call Charlinda herself to get her tray. But she does at least say thank you for Charlinda bringing that
She
tray.
gets like a good 15 feet away before she says thank you, though.
And so she, right. So she says, Jen keeps picking on me. I don't know why. And then cut to Jen calling Coach Shaw saying, this was one of the most horrible experiences in my life.
I love it that they just bounce back between Mary and Jen Shaw talking to their husbands about how horrible this Met Gala luncheon is.
Coach Shaw's like, the most horrible experience. She's like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
Wow, she really hasn't had that bad of experiences.
Worst experience of my life.
And Mary telling Robert Sr., she's like, I put this much money into it, and I put this much money into it, I put this much money into it. I put so much love
I made
into
it nice. We need that soundbite.
I made it nice.
Oh my God, that's that's good.
Of what's her name? Dorinda saying
Yes,
that? I
yes.
made it nice.
I made it nice.
But Mary made it really clear here that money is her love language. Money is her love language.
I love that Jen Shaw is calling her husband mostly for a Coach Shaw pep talk, mostly.
Yes,
Less than just talking to her husband. She just needs a Coach Shaw pep talk.
Whether you like Jen Shaw or not, you cannot argue with her stand on, Mary's racism.
Yeah, it's hits home personally for Jen. Jen Shaw is not African American black. She's Tongan.
Right.
And that's a difference, right?
Yeah, but her family, her boys, her husband.
Her family leading beyond that are gonna have to deal with that kind of racism on a daily basis. So when it hits home for you, when it hits that home for you, like you get really upset about it.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Really
I really don't
protectful.
blame her. So, I mean, again, Jen's getting some backlash for being so passionate, but I support how passionate she is about this. I think it's kind of funny when Jen sums it up by saying that she's going to kill her with kindness. We know better than that.
Come on, Jen, you can do it. I think she can do it.
Hey, listen, I would love for her to do it, but that's really hard for me to believe.
Well, it just seems like Mary just really plucks that cord in Jen.
Yeah.
Really
for
sets her
sure,
off. It just
for
sets
sure.
her off, like, instantly.
And then there's a moment with Mary that's really confusing for me because she first, she confirms that Jen Shaw calling her a grandpa effer, it makes her a mockery. And it seems like her tears might be genuine here. She might, she's really embarrassed and hurt and confused. And then she switches for just in nowhere and is like, but I don't care. I don't care about Jen. I don't care. And That's a mechanism that I saw in a lot of students. When my middle school students were either feeling under attack or they were feeling like they were being left out of something, their response was always, well, I don't care.
Yeah, and that's just a tactic. You know that.
Yeah.
It's just a kind of a defense that you put up. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. Listen, again, my goal is to be as positive about Mary as I can. And I love what great TV she gives me. And I love what great expression she gives me in her face. But I do feel like her emotional intelligence is pretty immature.
Mary is bouncing back and forth between praying, a.k.a. crying. Doesn't that sound like she's praying every time she's crying?
Yeah,
so I can't, I'm like, are you starting to pray? Oh, no, she's crying. No, she's upset. Oh, okay. But she bounces back and forth so much doing the crocodile tears and then I don't care. And whatever, I'm done. I don't care. And then, and it's just, I just don't know about Mary yet. She's
I know
very
you know exactly how
disingenuous.
you feel about it.
Listen, I'm trying to have a peaceful judgment about all of these ladies, and I'm kind of just going by what I'm seeing as things are being unveiled. Mary's not getting portrayed as a very great person, in my opinion, and I really hope that changes in the future episodes. But so far, Mary, not into it.
I don't know. Do you remember back when when Kelly Dodd said something about the puppet master and she was the puppet, and when she got everything, it kind of all switched around. Yeah. So Mary says that a bad apple in a tree spoils all of the other apples. Is that true?
No, that's not true. Because apples aren't part of a group. They're separate identity on the tree.
It made me think, well, where does the term bad apple come from? Would it be about apples that are in a bowl together?
I think she's thinking more of don't poop upstream from your drinking water. I think that's kind of what she's trying to think. I think that's a spoil.
I meant to actually Google where does the term bad apple come from. I guess maybe next week.
I'm surprised you don't know that, being an ex-teacher.
Well,
you're still teaching, but you're not a middle school teacher anymore.
Right. Well, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and get with Whitney and her hot brother.
I wrote down hot brother too. All right, we'll be right back.
We'd love to give a shout out to our sponsor, Anchor Podcasts.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free.
There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more.
You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place.
Anchor is where we started with our podcast, and it's been really great for us, and that's how you're able to hear us on all the different streaming platforms.
We love it. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
We get back with her Whitney and her hot half-brother, Will. His name is Will. They're at Unified Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Is Jiu-Jitsu Brazil? I don't understand.
It's called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's just, I think there's a lot of different forms of jiu-jitsu. Okay. And this is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Listen, her brother's been doing this class for a couple of years, and he's pretty badass.
Well, she said he's not someone that you want to mess with, but she obviously doesn't know us.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? I can't believe little Whitney is throwing her brother around like that. She's a beast.
Right?
I know he's letting her, but I mean, she literally is lifting him over her.
Yeah. That's he's like, you need to work here.
Get it? He's like, come on, I need to see more of you.
Well, maybe we should go take a class.
With him?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, they start talking about Whitney's father's addiction, and it shows that her brother is very supportive of him and wants a relationship with his stepfather, it really seems, which is a big surprise because that's not even his blood father.
Yeah.
Stepfather. It's his stepfather.
Yeah, the fact these former stepchildren are still interested in his life.
Well, at least one of them is.
Yeah, well, I think he kept speaking in the plural, like the other brothers or sisters or whatever were on board as well. And I thought that was really sweet. Whitney's sister is Shaylee, Shaylee. That's a very Utah name.
Utah name.
Like Jaden. And Whitney is so pretty without her makeup on.
She's gorgeous, and no matter what she's doing,
But
she's gorgeous.
with her makeup in this new, like, mod-inspired confessional with, like, that ruffled collar and her hair in the up, she looks so... It's
that
a new
red
look.
dress.
Yeah, it's a new look, and it's so beautiful.
I'm excited to see all of her confessional looks and all the different looks in the season, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
She's, like, really killing it with the outfit game.
Yeah, she's almost not recognizable in this new confessional, but I love it. I love it. It's a really great new look for her.
I'm really glad that her dad, because she starts talking about how her dad has been out of the clinic or whatever for 6 weeks now, and he's deciding that he needs to go to live-in care.
Yeah.
Which is really surprising, and that he even lasted for 6 months on his own. Addiction is so hard, and he knew that he was going to relapse, and he made the choice to go back to rehab. And I think that's so good for him, because if he would have relapsed, he would have had to feel like he had to start from ground one again.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't make it back from that.
And you know what? And it's also wonderful that he's not doing it to Whitney. You know, when you do relapse, you do it to the people who have been supporting you and helping you through it. So it's really nice that he's doing it on his own volition. And but they still has Whitney there to support him.
Yeah.
I like at the end of this scene, they go, "Do you ever dream about having parents who are normal?"
Like normal parents.
But I think as adults, we all find out how flawed our parents are.
They're all human. That's so weird that you said that, because our parents, you like think of them as like revered, like God-like kind of people, but then you kind of realize they have flaws. They make mistakes. They're not they don't make all the right choices.
When you become an adult, you find all the things they hid from you.
Oh, God, yes.
You find all the times that they were just completely screwing things up themselves, and you just never
But
knew
you know
about.
what? As an adult now, whenever I'm like seeing my family or my mom for any kind of event, I always reveal something horrible that happened that she never found out about. So she loves
I
that
know.
as
I'm
Christmas
always
presents.
I've seen it there. I've seen you guys. You and your sisters are just savage when you get together.
Yeah, well, I have 4 older sisters. I'm the only boy and the youngest, so life was just crazy at home. And my mom was the single mother taking care of all of us. So her life, life was
poor
kind of
mom.
hell. And we made
Your poor
we made
mother.
everybody's life hell in that family
Your
to each other.
poor
I don't know why, but we're really close.
You are. That's sweet. You're sweet. Speaking of sweet. That was an easy transition. Henry's party. He is so adorable. If I was an adult at that party, I would love just watching those kids dance and play and just have a blast.
I love it that they're each trying to do like a different TikTok dance.
Yes, they are, all him and all of his
And I love
guy
it that there's
friends.
that one kid in the middle that kind of doesn't have any rhythm, and you see him trying, so then he just kind of swaps to arm movements. He's like, that's such like a me move. That then like, I don't know how to do this, but arm movement, distraction.
Lisa looks like a really great mom, and it's really just nice to see. She seems to
All
really
of her
enjoy.
focus is on her son. For
She
her
is
birthday.
thrilled right now because he is so happy.
Lisa loves this party. She loves it.
I love that.
And Henry, again, he's just so adorable. Like little kids who get to be the center of attention, they just act so funny.
I love it because it reminds me so much of my nieces and nephews and stuff. But you know what? You got to check those kids sometimes. He says that he got a strike, but you don't get strikes with bumpers. I'm sorry. That's what I would say. That's what I would say to my nieces and nephew. You got to keep them down before they're too big and like better than you.
Yeah, happy birthday, Henry.
There's your present. Thank you. Where's the cake?
But not so happy birthday when Lisa brings up the Meredith and Seth separation to her husband, John.
And it just kind of seems she's a little bit judgmental about it because she's like, if you have a problem in your marriage, you fix it. But you know what? That's not always the case. And also, what if you're the only person in that relationship really putting in the effort and the other person doesn't? There's so many different variables that come with a marriage. Not every marriage is perfect, and not every marriage was made to last.
Yeah, Lisa seems to think that they're just like going through a rough patch that everyone goes through. But I'm like, it seems like their history, like this isn't the first time they've separated.
No. Then she says something. Okay.
I know exactly where this is going. We probably wrote down the same thing.
This is where I really fell in love with Lisa. This is where I identify with her. But she says something that I say on a daily basis. I need more attention.
No joke.
I literally say that to Bear every day. I need attention. And even if it's negative attention, if he's like pushes me off or yells at me or gets mad, I just giggle and I'm like, negative attention is better than no attention.
Well, hopefully now that you've fallen in love with her, you'll be able to tell her and Meredith apart now.
I hope so. Okay. So in the past episode, I have been messing up both of their names. And in this episode, I legit was like, that's Lisa. And he's like, no, that's Meredith. And I was like, nah, and we round it and it was Meredith. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to just ask you who this person is. And so throughout the episode, while I was taking notes, I'm like, this is Lisa, right? This is Meredith, right?
And I have no problem telling them apart. It's very clear to me who they are.
I'm sorry.
But so, yeah, I just wrote, she's just like Hunter. Tell me how much you love me. Tell me how obsessed you are with me. I need more attention.
Oh, God. I love that.
Her husband, John, is just so good. You know, they have, he has a core love of God, a core love of Jesus.
And
a core love of family and building something together. And to find out that during one of their rough patches, she threw his Rolex
out the window of a moving vehicle.
Into a snowbank.
I love it. They're like, did you guys both go back and look for it? And she's like, no, he did. It took him forever.
I was like, yeah. And she says, I don't have to perform services for presents. Like, I deserve presents for nothing. And,
I love her. I've said that too in my life multiple times.
And then I said the same exact response with, you never want to perform services, though. I wrote down, we are John and Lisa.
Oh, my God. I know when he's like, well, if you want to perform services. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that is 100% Bear.
I was like, yep, we are John and Lisa.
Yay, I like Lisa.
And then a really sweet scene with Whitney taking her dad to rehab. But the crazy thing was, now listen, I'm obsessed with the editing on Bravo, but this time they were playing music in the background. It was like really this like feel good music, like this driving music, like, St. Elmo's Fire type. When they're getting ready to leave, it did not match the sweet kind of sincere scene at all. It was like this.
Like she was getting her dad back.
Yeah,
and it was really sentimental.
It was like pump up music. It was really strange.
Let's do this. Sober living. Here we come.
Whitney says how excited she is about this, but she looks really kind of like overwhelmed to me on the way there.
You know what? I can totally understand why she would be completely overwhelmed, because when I had to deal with my friend going through addiction, it puts so much pressure on you as a caring human being. So, and it's her dad. So of course she's going to be super stressed out about this. And I'm sure this past 6 weeks of him being, off of assisted living, the sober living and stuff like that, she's been stressed out about it. And that he is having thoughts of, breaking his sobriety, that she's kind of worried about him even more now, but she's so proud of him that he is going back to getting help. It's so important to get help when going through addiction. Don't do it by yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You cannot put that on yourself, and you just need help to go through it. Addiction is such a harmful, horrible thing that's in this world, and it's just good to have people around you that's going to help.
Yeah. Well, she looks really, really hopeful in her confessional. And did you notice on the way up there, they have enough fast food sitting between them to feed like 4 people. They've got like 18 burgers and fries in there.
I know, and it's In-N-Out. And you know how I feel about In-N-Out.
Oh, you're gonna have some fans after that one.
I'm not going to say anything. I either like it or I don't like it.
Well, let's just say this. Hunter lives for French fries.
Potatoes.
He lives for potatoes. French fries in particular. And even though I do love an In-N-Out burger, I have to admit that the fries at In-N-Out are not great. And so he will never go to a restaurant with bad French fries. So don't be so hard on him, folks.
I love a potato. And with all, how can you be upset in a world that you can actually make a potato 100 different ways?
Right. But I was like, he's fueling up before he goes to rehab. He's like, give me all the In-N-Out I can eat before I go to rehab.
Fast food. Yeah, because I'm sure that you're not going to get fast food at rehab.
And
well, sober living. It's not rehab, it's sober living.
Right. I really liked the line of Whitney that said, let go of the past and use the resources of sober living. Those are exactly the goal, like so beautiful, perfectly spoken.
Yeah, she's just such a wonderful human being. I'm really proud of her.
Yeah. Listen, these women, their very first season are bringing it. Whitney is talking about her dad's addiction. Meredith is going through a separation on camera. Like, these women are really bringing their stories.
Oh my gosh, when I was wearing the Real Housebears of Salt Lake City t-shirt through the airport, people were stopping me and be like, did you know that they have Real Housewives of Salt Lake City? I'm like, yeah, duh, that's right. But they were like, isn't this season so good? I'm like, yes, it's amazing.
So they're really giving us some TV. But anyway, that was a really nice scene. And then we switch over to Meredith's house, and
oh gosh,
it was like the music in the back. I don't know why I caught the music in this one too. There was a song in the background that just kept saying yeah in the background, and I was like, I actually loved the song, and I don't have any notes that it was like didn't fit the scene, so I guess it wasn't the same situation. But another time that the music kind of stuck out to me, but for a good reason this time.
I'm really not enjoying the Meredith and Seth storyline. It's depressing and it's very sad, and this scene really, really broke my heart. I kind of teared up a couple times, especially.
It's heavy.
It's so heavy. And you can... let's lighten something up before we get into it. Did you notice that in that room, Lisa has that, or
Meredith.
Meredith has that bear picture from that art gallery. Episode 2?
Yes, it's not clean lines or monochromatic.
She got it. So Bear, you are in her house.
I am in her home.
Wow,
I am in her
that's
heart.
amazing. All right, let's get back to the depressing stuff.
Well, not yet though, because her face looks stunning. Her makeup is gorgeous. She has a really lovely monogrammed bathrobe on, so not everything is horrible.
Yeah, but she doesn't have to live her life between the lines.
But they clearly did not have a good visit.
No, and it's just really hard because she says, I think a separation would be good for us and I want to keep pushing through this. And you can tell Seth does not want this at
Well, he
all.
flat out says it. He says, I don't want this.
He breaks out. His voice starts to break, and he says, I don't want to do this, as they hug each other. And you can tell that they still love each other, but it really seems this is more on Meredith's side.
Yeah, Meredith is not ready to say that this is over, but she's not ready to say that she's.
But she really emphasizes that they need to take time apart because she needs to, they both need to fix each other by themselves. Yeah. Fix themselves before they can fix each other.
I agree with that. You do have to be careful because, absence doesn't always make the heart grow fonder. So you do have to be careful that you don't put so much space between you that you can't bridge the gap.
And it seems like they've already been having some time apart from each other.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact that she's kind of like, we need to continue with the separation right now is what is really hard for Seth to wrap his head around. Yeah. And it...
when she dives in to his chest to hug him.
I start crying.
Yeah, you can see that they really do have love for each other, and that's where he says, I don't want to do this. We said last week, or the week before, that Meredith is very un-Housewives in the way that she disengaged from Jen Shaw.
Yeah.
But putting your separation on the show, your very first season, that's Housewives, bitch.
That is. That is Housewives, bitch.
So, listen, say what you will, but Elizabeth from OC, we've made it to almost the whole season, and we don't know anything about her. Meredith, right here in the first season, we've really gotten to see the good and the bad and the ugly, and I'm into that.
Just so sad. I don't really like watching it. So I'm glad that they went to a commercial.
Yeah. We needed a little bit of a break. And then when we come back from the commercial, the first thing that we see are these beautiful Brussels sprouts that someone in this restaurant has ordered.
Me too. I was like, those Brussels sprouts look delicious.
Seriously. And guess what we're having for dinner tonight?
Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, seriously. So maybe I've just had Brussels sprouts on the brain, but they looked really quite delicious on that quick scene at the restaurant. And then they're at this restaurant because Heather wants Mary Mary to know that she can be her friend as well as Jen Shaw's friend.
And Mary wants that waitress to know that carbonation harms your ovaries.
Listen, the category is, again, things Mary Cosby fears. We've got hospitals, convenience stores, carbonated water now, and not looking each other in the eyes when you do a toast, which she learned in Milano.
It's so funny that she's got this list, this continuing list of things that ick her.
Right? But Heather Gay's like, double sparkling water for me, please.
So no kids here. I don't want any more children.
She has had enough. If you listen to her podcast, you know that she does not like to cook and clean and all that stuff. So she's like, these girls are going to be 18 and I'm going to never wash another dish. I'm never going to cook another meal.
No, thank you.
She's so funny. I love her so much. I missed the entire rest of this scene because Mary's wig is about 2 inches back too far on her head.
You could see her original hairline, and I noticed that as well.
You guys, I'm not kidding you. I don't have the best eyesight. So I literally was like, Hunter, go up by that TV and verify for me that there's not like some headband there. Like literally her wig is pushed back so far on her head. I'm like, please tell me that it's just my eyes not working. And he's like, no, I don't see a headband. That's just her wig too far.
But Mary and Heather get into why Jen Shaw is, Mary thinks jealous and that she wants to be top dog. You know?
She says, Jen doesn't like my color, which she's actually using. She says she uses some clarifiers to make you think that it's her colorfulness, not the color of her skin. But I don't know. Is this a black thing? You know,
I just don't know anymore. All these new things are popping up about Mary.
And they show for the second time in this episode the same exact flashback to Jen Shaw again saying, you're going to go with Mary who effed her grandfather? Like, this is the second time in the same episode that they flash back to
I have never seen that on TV, so I no wonder they keep using it.
Right? Mary uses tears to get compassion.
She sure does. She can turn those crocodile tears on and off like a light switch.
Yeah, I didn't really see real tears actually there. Maybe I was too busy looking at her wig line, but I want to give her the benefit of doubt. Like earlier when she was talking to Robert Sr., I thought that maybe her tears were genuine. Here, I really didn't. But here is also where I have to call a little bit of a BS.
Well, I mean, when she starts in about her marriage with Robert, and she even starts crying and says she didn't want to marry her grandfather, and it took them 2 years to get together. But I know that you have heard a lot of new stuff about Mary.
Yeah, so, again, my intention is to really enjoy Mary and support Mary.
But you need to give the people what they want.
Yeah, Hunter has guilted me into being like, Bear, you have to tell them they want to hear these things that you're finding on.
We want to hear behind the velvet rope type of stuff. We want to see the behind the scenes. This is the show. We want to dive into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, everything about them, and whatever we find out about them on other sources, we're going to try to bring them up here.
Well, I mentioned last week that I posted a YouTube video of one cousin telling his story. So that is on all of our social media platforms. And then I posted another article this week from another cousin telling her story, which is very similar, if not close to the same as the other cousin who told his story. And, they're saying that, Mary said that it took them 2 years to get married. According to her cousins, they were married within a year of Mary's grandmother dying.
Oof.
They both talk about them having a relationship before they even talked about marriage.
They even said Mary was married to another man during this time, and she had an affair.
Yeah, and Robert Sr. kicked him out of the church. Mm-hmm. And all kinds of different things about money, like how they call them the saints, which are the parishioners of their church, how they get the saints to like mortgage or like refinance their homes and to give them the money, and all of these other types of schemes to get their money, and the different type of cult-like qualities. And just today, we heard some sermon of Mary's fussing out the people in her church for not being generous enough to Mary for her birthday.
And saying that she only got like 8 cards, and she's like, I don't want to be around poor people.
She's like, even if you're not poor and you have money, then you're poor of spirit because you're not giving.
And you're stingy, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I mean, it was I couldn't breathe through the entire, minute and 30 seconds of that video. So there is so much stuff coming out of the woodworks about Mary that whenever we hear about it, we're going to bring it to you, but we don't know how factual it is. We are just, middlemen bringing you guys some information that we hear from her relatives.
So I'm just going to deliver the news without any kind of... attitude towards Mary. I'll let Hunter have all the attitude towards Mary so that maybe we can have a little bit of a yin and yang here. Because again, normally I would hate someone like that. But I am so fascinated by these women, and they're giving such amazing television that I'm even having compassion for Mary that I didn't think that I could have before.
Listen, I don't want anybody to go through a hard time or a bad time or get judged or yelled at. I don't want anybody to have to go through that type of stuff.
And then one thing that I did find another way that Mary and I can relate to each other. She said, when I'm done, I'm done. Now, I am an extremely forgiving person. I will forgive you 1,000,000 times. But once I come to the realization that my best interest is no longer your best interest, I'm done. Like, there's no switching me back. No, I've let you screw me over 100,000 times by now. But once
Not me.
No, not you. Yeah, no. But once I finally let someone run over me enough times, then I'm like, listen, you clearly don't care about my well-being, so I'm done caring about yours. So I can relate to that, Mary. So I got you. I'm with you, girl. We're working on it. We're becoming friends.
Get it.
But next week looks so saucy and exciting. We've got belly shots, Whitney's birthday or Justin's birthday. I can't tell whose it is, but we'll get to see more of Justin next week.
Yay!
Yeah, Sundance. We've got Lala and Katie from Vanderpump Rules. Heather Lees with a hot guy.
I'm surprised it took Lala and Katie so long to get on the show, to make an appearance on the show, because they're from Park City.
I know. Well, it didn't take them that long.
No, it sure didn't.
Episode 6.
Episd 5.
Well, they'll be on episode 6.
Yeah, episode 6. But they made an appearance on episode 5 for a second. The credits. So I am always right.
Well, thank you all for letting us make an appearance in your lives this week with the Real Housebears of Salt Lake City. Please, 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 please tell your friends and follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Twitter, we are Housebears of SLC. On Facebook and Instagram, we are The Real Housebears of SLC. You can email us at therealhousebearsofslc@gmail.com.
And you could find us on YouTube. Please go and subscribe to us. And also find us on iTunes Podcasts. And if you would pretty please leave us a 5-star review and even maybe write a little review of how much you love Hunter Harden on this show. I mean, both of us on this show.
And we're on all of your other podcast platforms, Spotify, Anchor FM, the Google playlist, you name them, we're on them.
Google us.
So thank you so much. We look forward to next week when we bring you episode 6.
Bye.
Bye.